Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Not only should Walters be your spot before and after every Nats game, but also Walters is an avenue for cheaper Nats tickets. When buying tickets to Nationals Park through the rest of the season, enter promo code WALTERS for 30% off.
The 2-2. Swing a long drive left center field. This is way back there. Vargas at the wall looking up, and it is gone. A towering two-run homer for Alec Bohm. Pitch. Swing a fly ball left field deep. Vargas to the warning track. At the wall, he leaps, and it's gone. It's 11-1 Phillies.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a line drive deep right. Thomas back, way back. Going, gone, goodbye. It's a grand slam for Kyle Schwarber. It's still daytime, but it's been a nightmare in Philadelphia for the Nationals this afternoon. 8 runs home here in the bottom of the 5th. It's now the Phillies 19 and the Nationals 4.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Sunday, July 2nd, 2023. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of the show. Lucky him. Boy, did he pick a good show for which to be off. The Nationals on Saturday got smashed, got demolished. A 19-4 loss at the Philadelphia Phillies on Saturday in Game 2 of a 3-game series. And yes, I did say 19-4. The Nats on Friday night won at the Phillies 2-1 in Game 1. The Nats on Saturday got routed at the Phillies 19-4 in Game 2. Do not forget to check out our new website, natschatpodcast.com, which allows you to listen to previous installments of the show, contact the show, and order a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. Also, if you have like 20 seconds to spare, please consider giving this podcast a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. The 5-star ratings help out the podcast a lot. Also, please consider writing a review of the podcast saying that you like it. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, and the reviews help out the podcast a lot. So thank you very much for doing the ratings and the reviews. So Saturday's Nats loss really was one of those games that's a stiff, not so pleasant reminder of what the Nats are. And that, of course, is a rebuilding team. Friday night's game was a peek at what the Nats hopefully will be when the rebuild is complete. But Saturday's game was like a bucket of cold water. The Nats now are 33-49 with a run differential of minus 76. So let's get to what mattered the most from this game from a Nats perspective. MacKenzie Gore, he had his worst start of this season. There is no sugarcoating this. There is no dancing around this, okay? Gore had his worst start of the season. Something that had been very encouraging with MacKenzie Gore was the avoidance of the blow-up start. He had had some bad starts, yes, but the true blow-up start, the kind of start that wrecks your earned run average, Gore really had not had that this season until Saturday. Saturday was very much a blow-up start for MacKenzie Gore. He allowed 7 runs in 2 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, a homer, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. He issued 3 walks and a hit by pitch. He had 3 strikeouts. He threw 64 pitches, 37 strikes versus 27 balls. Gore in the bottom of the second allowed a run, but he completely unraveled in what ended up being a 6-run third inning for the Phillies. And this was rough. Gore issued a leadoff 5-pitch walk of ex-Nat Kyle Schwarber. Gore then issued a 5-pitch walk of another ex-Nat, Trey Turner. Gore then gave up a single by Nick Castellanos to left field to load the bases with no outs. Gore then failed to cover first base on a bases-loaded RBI fielder's choice grounder by another ex-Nat, Bryce Harper, preventing the possibility of a double play.
No balls and a strike. Gore ready. He delivers. Swinging a ground ball to the first baseman. Smith has it. He'll throw to second for 1, and no one's covering first. So that's all they'll get. Gore just standing there in front of the mound. Now in a catcher's crouch, never moved to cover first.
Shortstop C.J. Abrams, upon getting the force out at second base, essentially threw his hands up as if to say, what's going on here? But yeah, Gore, for whatever reason, did not cover first base. May have thought that the first baseman, Dominic Smith, was going to throw home on the play, but whatever, you can't just assume that. And MacKenzie Gore ended up like squatting and was just kind of, holding still and not covering first base. So that was tough. And Gore, to his credit, during his post-game session with reporters, did take blame for not covering first base there.
That's kind of what, we talk about doing little things right, and that can't happen.
But Gore in this inning then gave up a one-out RBI single by JT Realmuto on a bloop to center field for a 3-1 Phillies lead. Okay, some bad luck there. Gore then gave up a one-out RBI sac fly by yet another ex-Nat, Josh Harrison, for a 4-1 Phillies lead. Gore then gave up a two-out, two-run homer by Alec Boehm to left center field for a 6-1 Phillies lead. Gore then issued a two-out, 9-pitch walk of the Phillies' number 8 batter, Edmundo Sosa, despite Sosa having been down in the count at 1.12. That walk of Sosa was brutal. And Gore then gave up another run-scoring hit, a two-out RBI double by Kristen Pache to left field for a 7-1 Phillies lead. Nats manager Davey Martinez and the Nats director of athletic training, Paul Lessard, then visited the mound. And then that ended up being it. Davey removed Gore from the game. Now, it stood out that Lessard came out to the mound in addition to Davey. Davey, during his post-game session with reporters, said that MacKenzie Gore is dealing with a blister. Doesn't seem to be a big deal, but Davey also said that Lessard had not yet fully examined Gore. This was Davey on whether the blister was a factor in MacKenzie Gore allowing 6 runs in that bottom of the third.
He kept saying he was fine. So, like I said, look, he's a kid that just wants to compete. He doesn't want to ever get taken out. When I saw that, I said, we're going to take you out so you get looked at. So I'll talk to him again, tomorrow, see how he's doing.
Then this was MacKenzie Gore during his post-game session with reporters on Saturday evening on the blister.
Always kind of something I deal with. So yeah, I'm fine. That had nothing to do with, what happened. So.
All right, so no excuses for MacKenzie Gore. We know that he's very hard on himself, and I actually like that about him. Now, you don't want to be too hard on yourself, but MacKenzie Gore is not an excuse maker, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that. Gore now in this regular season, 17 starts, ERA of 4.48. Yeah, just like that, Gore now has an ERA of 4.48. His ERA via this outing on Saturday went from 3.89 to 4.48. His whip now is at 147. He's putting a good number of guys on base. Now, there is an element of bad luck to this because he has allowed a sky-high BABIP, a sky-high batting average on balls in play. The MacKenzie Gore BABIP allowed for this regular season now is at 348. I mentioned that RBI single by JT Realmuto with one out in the 6-run third. That's a classic BABIP hit. A bloop to center field ends up putting the Phillies up 3-1. There have been a good number of hits like that one by Realmuto off Gore this season. So again, some bad luck, but still he's putting a good number of guys on base, and the strikeouts have started to tick down a bit as well. That had been something that was so good about MacKenzie Gore earlier this season, him striking guys out at an exceptional rate. That strikeouts per 9 innings for MacKenzie Gore has ticked down, still is in double-digit territory on the season. Gore's strikeouts per 9 innings for the regular season is at 10.9, but that strikeouts per 9 innings number for MacKenzie Gore had been higher as of, just a few weeks ago. So MacKenzie Gore on Saturday got roughed up, and then 3 Nats relievers on Saturday got roughed up. For the game, 5 Nats relievers and a position player combined to allow 12 runs in 5 1/3 innings, but it was the Nats' first 3 relievers in the game who allowed the 12 runs. Amos Willingham, Joe LaSorsa, and Thaddeus Ward. Those 3 guys on Saturday combined to allow 12 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Yes, 12 runs in 2 1/3 innings. This was batting practice of these guys. The Phillies in this game scored 18 runs over the 3rd through 5th innings. 6 runs in the 3rd, 4 runs in the 4th, and 8 runs in the 5th. MacKenzie Gore was at fault for the 6 runs in the 3rd. But the law firm of Willingham, LaSorsa, and Ward were responsible for those 12 runs over the 4th and 5th innings. Amos Willingham, he allowed 4 runs in 1 and a third innings. He and the 4-run Phillies 4th gave up 2 2-run homers. A 2-run homer by Nick Castellanos to center field for a 9-1 Phillies lead, and a 2-out 2-run first pitch homer by Alec Boehm to left field for an 11-1 Phillies lead. Now, Nats center fielder Derek Hill nearly made an outstanding home run saving catch on the Castellanos homer, but the catch was not made. And Willingham, like I said, giving up 2 2-run homers in that 4-run Phillies 4th. Then we had the Joe LaSorsa show. He officially allowed 4 runs in 1/3 of an inning. He and the 8-run Phillies 5th faced 5 batters and got just 1 out. And then Thaddeus Ward officially allowed 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He and the 8-run Phillies 5th faced 6 batters and got just 2 outs. And Ward gave up a homer, and this was some homer. Thaddeus Ward gave up a 2-out grand slam by Kyle Schwarber to right field for a 19-4 Phillies lead. You know, the grand slam by Schwarber was like somebody's idea of a twisted joke. The Nats already were down 15-4. And then Schwarber hits this grand slam to make an already absurd score even more absurd. You know, like 15-4 is bad enough. You didn't need the grand slam, but you got the grand slam, and that put the Nats down 19-4. But you look at these 3 guys, Amos Willingham, Joe LaSorsa, and Thaddeus Ward. Amos Willingham just got called up. The Nats, this past Monday evening, June 26, selected the contract of Willingham from AAA Rochester. Joe LaSorsa, he's a waiver claim. The Nats on June 8th announced that they had claimed LaSorsa off waivers from the Tampa Bay Rays. And Thaddeus Ward is a Rule 5 pick. The Nats, this past December 7th, took Ward with the number 1 pick in the Major League phase of the 2022 Rule 5 draft. So Amos Willingham, Joe LaSorsa, and Thaddeus Ward, all guys whose backgrounds suggest that struggles are possibilities, okay? Now look, a lot of bullpens are built on the backs of guys who are, recent call-ups / waiver claims / even Rule 5 picks. I mean, you do see guys obtained via various scrap heap means pitch well for good teams' bullpens, but you also can see guys of that nature struggle. And man, did we see that in this game on Saturday. This was tough with Willingham, LaSorsa, and Ward. Now, the rest of the Nats' relief pitching effort on Saturday actually was fine. Jose A. Ferrer made his Major League regular season debut, and he did well. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 6th. So the Nats on Friday afternoon recalled Ferrer, a lefty from AAA Rochester, and actually put starting pitcher Patrick Corbin on the bereavement list, although Corbin was not scheduled to start a game in this 3-game series at the Phillies. But Jose A. Ferrer, the Nats in July 2017 signed Ferrer as a non-drafted free agent out of the Dominican Republic. This season is his age 23 season. He last season pitched well for Low A Fredericksburg and High A Wilmington, and actually was selected to participate in the 2022 All-Star Futures game, which is the All-Star game for minor league baseball. Now, Ferrer this season wasn't exactly killing it for AAA Rochester. 34 games, 40 innings, an ERA of 3.83, a whip of 155, a strikeouts per 9 innings of 7.4. But, the Nats are not exactly overflowing with bullpen options who are Major League ready in the minors. And it's worth noting that another lefty reliever in the Nats organization, our guy Sean Doolittle, he now is out with injury for Rochester. Davey Martinez on Friday afternoon in his pregame session with reporters revealed that Doolittle had suffered a right knee patellar tendon strain. This with Doolittle already trying to come back from a major left elbow injury. But anyway, Jose A. Ferrer on Saturday, perfect bottom of the 6th. Corey Abbott then tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th. And then, yes, we did get the position player pitching, Ildemaro Vargas, who was the Nats starting left fielder in this game. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th, only threw 8 pitches, 7 of which were strikes. So an efficient, perfect inning by Ildemaro Vargas. But, we have danced this dance many times these last few seasons, a Nats position player pitching. As I've said multiple times, the joke is no longer funny, okay? Even though I just laughed right there. But we've seen this too much, all right? This has happened way too often over these last 3 seasons, a Nationals position player pitching. And yet we had that on Saturday.
Hey, Nat Chat Podcast. The other night, my parents were at the Braves game. They live in Atlanta. What do you want from me? Anyhow, my mom texted me afterwards. She saw 4 guys stroll in, and one of them was wearing bird dogs. She said by far he looked the best of anyone in his group of friends. Bird dogs fit better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton, and I believe it based upon customer reviews. Go to birddogs.com/pool and enter promo code POOL for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off, they promise you. Hey, Nat Chat Podcast. Tim Shover's here to tell you about the Game Time app. I got a text recently from a good friend of mine whose daughter is really into Harry Potter and wants to be there on Saturday, July 8th for Harry Potter Day against the Texas Rangers. They aren't the biggest sports fans to begin with, so I directed him to the Game Time app and told him what was the best move. Now he will be behind the Nats dugout for a reasonable price, all by simply logging on to the Game Time app. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you will know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Now the pitch swung on, lined into right center field. That's going to be hit for Abrams, and it's going to split the outfielders and go to the wall. Heading for third is Vargas. He hits the bag, makes the turn. He's coming in to score. Abrams speeding to third, slides in without a play. Throw coming into the third baseman Sosa after he's up on his feet from a pop-up slide. So C.J. Abrams has his third triple of the year.
Ildemaro Vargas on Saturday, in addition to pitching, did also have 2 hits. He was the Nats starting left fielder at number 7 batter. He went 2 for 4 with 2 singles, each of which came on a 1-2 pitch. The Nats, for the game, 4 runs, 10 hits, no walks. The Nats pitching is why they lost this game, but 2 things with the Nats offense as compared to the Phillies offense: home runs and walks. The Nats on Saturday got out-homered by the Phillies 4-1. The Nats for this regular season have 66 home runs. The Phillies have 90 home runs. That the Nats don't hit a lot of home runs is something we all know by now, but, I don't think it's something that we should just forget about and stop talking about. Like, this is a big deal that the Nats don't hit home runs, and this really stood out in this game on Saturday. And then also on Saturday, the Nats 0 walks to the Phillies 5. This is something that we've been talking about more and more on the podcast, and I think justifiably so. The Nats for this regular season have a major league worst 204 walks. The Phillies have 253 walks, which isn't even that great of a total, but that's still 49 more walks than the Nats have. I'm not breaking news by saying this, okay, but the Nats need more firepower in their lineup. This stuff about making contact and putting balls in play, that's fine, okay? I mean, that's swell if you make contact and put balls in play, but home runs and walks are better. The Nats need more guys who hit home runs and draw walks. People love to knock the modern way of baseball with the 3 true outcomes: home runs, walks, and strikeouts. But the truth is that the 3 true outcome phenomenon is a phenomenon for a reason. And that reason is because that methodology works. That methodology leads to good offense. And that's not to say that you shouldn't try to make contact and that you shouldn't try to put balls in play, but walks put batters on bases, and walks drive up pitch counts. And home runs are the most efficient way of scoring in baseball. And so if you as a team are not drawing walks and are not hitting home runs, you're going to have a really hard time scoring runs no matter how many balls you put in play, no matter how many singles that you generate. And so this is, I think, the number one thing on which the Nats as a team must improve. And I know that they know this, okay? Again, I'm not breaking news by saying these things, but it really does slap you across the face when you watch a game like this one on Saturday. The Phillies hit homers and draw walks. the Nats do not hit homers and do not draw walks. And those realities are big-time problems. And speaking of the Nats not hitting homers and not drawing walks, a guy who has not had a good season in those departments of home runs and walks, Joey Meneses. It's worth noting, Davey Martinez on Saturday gave Joey Meneses another day off. Meneses has had more than a few days off here lately. And Meneses had a really rough June. He, for the month of June, had a batting average of just .238, an on-base percentage of just .278, and a slugging percentage of just .321. So hopefully the day off did Joey Meneses some good here. Now, I mentioned that the Nats did have a homer on Saturday. They did. And the homer came from Dominic Smith, of all people, a guy who has become almost emblematic of the Nats not hitting homers and not drawing walks this season. But good for Dominic Smith for hitting a homer on Saturday. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 5 batter, 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Dominic Smith and the Nats 1-run second, a 1-out solo homer to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 1-0 Nats lead. Yeah, the Nats in this game actually held a 1-0 lead, then ended up being outscored over the course of the rest of the game, 19-3. But Dominic Smith had the solo homer. It also was good to see C.J. Abrams have a big RBI hit. Abrams on Saturday as the Nats starting shortstop and number 8 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI triple and a single. Abrams in the Nats 3-run fifth, a 1-out RBI triple to the right center field gap to cut the Nats deficit to 11-2. Also in that 3-run Nats fifth, Luis Garcia, 2-out RBI double to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 11-4. He is the Nats starting second baseman and number 2 batter on Saturday, 1 for 4 with that RBI double. Lane Thomas had a multi-hit game. He is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, 2 for 5 with an RBI single, another single, and 2 strikeouts. Thomas in the Nats 3-run fifth, a 2-out full count opposite field, RBI single to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 11-3. It is on Sunday, by the way, that we will find out who from the Nats made the National League All-Star team. Lane Thomas, obviously a major candidate. Another would be Jeimer Candelario. He on Saturday as the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 1 for 3 with a single. But yeah, I mean, you have these positives and you have these things that you do want to highlight if you're a Nats fan or a Nats observer, but, you feel almost silly bringing up some of these run-scoring hits by the Nats in a game that the Nats lost 19-4. It's like, hey, Abrams had an RBI triple, cut the deficit to 11-2. It's like, okay, fine. These blowout losses are rough, and we all have dealt with them these last few seasons with the Nats. What had been good, though, was that the Nats had been avoiding the blowout loss. Lately, we have seen a decent number of blowout losses, just working backwards here. You had the 19-4 loss at the Phillies on Saturday. You had an 8-4 loss at the Seattle Mariners this past Monday. You had that 13-3 loss at the San Diego Padres now 2 Fridays ago, June 23rd. You had a 9-3 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals on June 20th. You had a 10-5 loss to the Arizona Diamondbacks on June 6th. You had an 11-3 loss to the Phillies on June 4th. It feels like we have seen more of the blowout loss here lately. So that's something that you certainly don't want to see more of. I mean, when the Nats were going all right earlier this season, one of the things that we talked about was, hey, even the losses are close, competitive games. A stark difference from what we had last season when the Nats had, remember, not just the worst record in the majors, but also the worst run differential in the majors for the 2022 regular season. Well, you're starting to creep back into that territory of not just losing a good bid, but losing by a lot a good bid. And that's obviously a bad combination. Although, remember, the Nats entered Saturday having won 5 of the team's previous 6 games. So look, if Trevor Williams pitches well on Sunday afternoon and the Nats get a win, A, they win the series, and B, what happened on Saturday, as ugly as it was, could end up being just a mere hiccup, a mere blip on the radar en route to a nice conclusion for the pre-All-Star break portion of the Nats season. We'll see. I mean, this is baseball, right? You win 2-1 on Friday night. You get ravaged 19-4 less than 24 hours later on Saturday. That is the nature of the beast. But Game 3 at the Phillies Sunday afternoon, 1:35. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on Twitter at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the show. We'd love to have you on board. Hit up Tim Shover, see what we can do for you. Again, that email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. A thank you to Tim Newmark for the music of the Nats Chat podcast. Check out his site, timnewmark.com. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday mornings, 11 to 12 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and ESPNRichmond.com online. I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
The 0-1. De La Cruz hits it high in the air to left. This is deep, and it's over Simon's head, rolling against the wall. This will score 2. Lawson in, McHenry right behind him, and CDLC has put an exclamation point on a big inning for the Fred Nats, who now lead it 5-3.